Hi and welcome people to my program today, and as always it's exciting, isn't it? Because today we're talking about pensions, and you really do need to listen up to this program today because pensions has now been enforced by the law. So if you're a small business and you're thinking this doesn't affect us, we're only a small takeaway, restaurant, you know, halal meat shop, grocery store, fabric stores, you know, up and down the high street, the traditional ones that we see. Well, pensions do affect you because the law has come in. And to discuss everything that you need to know about pensions today, I've actually decided to bring into the studio a counsellor. And there's a reason why I've brought in a counsellor, because simply we need to discuss what the state pension is about. Now that there's automatic enrollment happening since the 1st of October, I just want to discuss the ins and outs of this all. And I didn't really want to bring in a private pension fund, because obviously we all know they're just going to talk about their own self-interest. So I would like to think that we're going to have a bit of an unbiased view, and I'd like to open the debate and discussion as well as inform all of you guys at home today what the pension service and the new law that's kicking in, what you're going to have to do about this, because like I said, there's no getting out of it. So let's introduce our studio guest today, and I'd like to introduce Councillor Sajaad Khan, Labour Member of Council from Middlesborough. So welcome, Councillor Sajaad.
Thank you for having me on this show. It's very kind.
That is great. Now we've got a very large national and international viewership for this programme. So for all our international viewers, what is your role as councillor in the UK? What do you do?
Well, my role is to represent the good people of the Gresham ward in Middlesbrough, and I have done so since May the 6th last year. The role of a councillor is very straightforward: to be there for others and to make sure others' concerns are addressed. And one of those concerns is to make sure that you sit on the committees that in effect have a direct impact on your constituents. And as a testament on my Facebook and Twitter, I think people know what I do in Middlesbrough and what I do for the people of Gresham, which I'm very proud to represent.
That is great. And for all those people at home and for international viewership, basically if you're a business, if you live in any UK area, all the areas are divided up into wards, and wards have councillors that represent our views and opinions in the elected democracy that operates in this country. And should you have a problem of any kind, your first port of call is your local councillor. So therefore we have Councillor Sajaad here today, because there's a reason why he's here, and that is because he's actually a member of the Teesside Pension Fund and Investment Panel. And by the way, people, this Teesside Pension Fund and Investment Panel has a fund of nearly £3 billion in its pot. And that is something that Councillor Sajaad is a committee member of. So Councillor Sajaad, what is Teesside Pension Fund and Investment Panel? What do you do there?
I'm one of several members, along with the chair and the vice chair, who act as a trustee. And what my role is basically is to ensure that the officers who manage the client's money, that is members of councils or public sector organisations, to make sure that their money is managed wisely, and to make sure that the officers are held into account, and that every stock, every share, every purchase, every transaction, if needs be, is scrutinised. Accountability, that's what we do.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of our viewers, they haven't got the first clue about pensions. They obviously know what the word pension means, and that's an income for your retirement. But what they have to do as an employer, as an Asian business watching this program today, or any entrepreneurs are actually starting in business, what is the state pension age? Let's start off with the real basics. What's the state pension age, Councillor?
At present, the state pension age will be 65, and that's set to change.
We have changes happening with regard to pensions just about every single year. Why is that, Councillor? Why are there so many changes?
Well, at this moment in time, this government, this coalition, if that's these tooth fairies, as I like to label them, have come together, and what they've said is that the pension system is a fiasco. We want to reform it, we want to change it. So they've brought in some mandatory legal changes in which they basically say from the 1st of October, you now have to join a pension. The thinking behind it is that in the long term, everyone will get a pension, or the vast majority of people will be covered, and the vast majority of people will be able to live on that pension in the near future, which is 20, 30 years from now. What they haven't taken into account is, for one thing, they haven't asked what the people were thinking when they did this. They just did it, because that's what Liberals and Tories do. They just do things.
The thing is, in all fairness, Councillor, in all fairness to the government, 46% of self-employed people, which is about 1.3 million people, have no pension whatsoever. So obviously it needed some kind of reform.
Of course. And as a member of the Labour Party, we're all for reform, we're all for progressiveness, but you've got to be realistic. Is it time to be messing about with pensions, or is it time to be sorting out the economy of the country? You can't have it both ways. What you're doing is open Pandora's box. You should have just left the system alone for the moment and focused on existing things like the NHS and education. You don't want to be messing about with people's livelihood, and you don't want to be messing about people's livelihood without telling them what's going on. There's been no media coverage, and if there has, it's been very, very limited.
Okay, we'll talk about this bit. We'll be coming back to this point of what the government is trying to do and why it's trying to do this. But let's talk about the current pension arrangements, or really what's happened since last week, 1st of October. Okay, so can you talk some of our views through the current pension arrangements?
Steve Webb, who's the pensions minister, said that Albert Einstein would be baffled by all this. And what they did, they brought in from the 1st of October 2012, if you're over the age of 22 years old, if you work full-time or part-time, if you have certain carer arrangements, or if you make more than £8,000 sterling, you'll automatically be enrolled into a pension scheme. This, in theory, is there to benefit you, because you may not have a pension, so therefore they've put you onto it already. The problem is, it might not be right for you.
But you know, what is the current state pension? What are we talking about in facts and figures term?
At the moment, 2012 to 2013, you're looking at about £104.75 a week, and for a married couple, about £172 a week.
So let's talk about the pension regulator. What do they do?
The Pension Advisory Service that goes to the Department of Work and Pensions, they're there to make sure that everything's above board, everyone's payments are made, everyone's everything balances at the end of the day. They're there to make sure that everything is done properly. They're the watchdog. They're an essential service, but again, they're an arm of the government, really.
So let's talk about your particular fund in Teesside. How does the £2.3 billion fund actually work, and how do you help people?
What we do, taking into account Tees Valley Unlimited or Middlesborough Council or Stockton Council, various public sector bodies, their members, which are employees, will come along and they will invest so much money from their wages per month into Teeside Pension Investment Panel. That money will then go into the purchase of stocks and shares and assets. We then get a return on that. That return then goes back into the pension fund, and whatever's been made goes into paying the pension and goes into paying for the officers. At the end of the day, it's a business. We're there to make a profit. So that's what it does.
You know, my understanding is, people, because I've done a lot of research for this programme, and I don't know about the current government, but the governments before this have made a complete mess of this whole pension fund. And that's income for retirement, and it does affect all Asian businesses, because our models of business are very different to, like, say, the mainstream businesses. Number one, our small businesses have never ever thought about pensions, simply because the first and second generations of Asians that are in this country, what they tend to do, or what has tended to happen in the past, is they've taken their state pension, so it didn't really matter whether it was £107 or a little bit less than that. They took it away to their native country, and they spent the last of their days in another country. And for all extent and purposes, that was more than sufficient. But now the new generations that are coming in, £107 or whatever it's going to be in 20 or 30 or 40 years time, is definitely not sufficient. And the current state pension also relies on you as an individual to have paid around, and don't quote me on these figures because I'm not a financial expert, but around 30 full years that qualify for national insurance contributions. So if you're anything less of 30 full years, you actually don't get the maximum, which is, again, the 140 or 100 or something figures that you're entitled to. Even that is not enough to live your life in this country in your retirement. And I personally think, Councillor Sajaad, that, with the pension age rising every single year, most people are actually going to end up dead. So you're actually not even going to get to the stage of collecting your pension, which you've been, paying into, never mind this automatic enrollment. So I'd just like you to talk about what is actually going on. Are we just waiting for people to die off naturally so nobody has to collect their pension?
Well, this government, are not best friends, and they're not completely heartless. But what I will say is that in my ward in Gresham, where unemployment is high and deprivation is high, if you go to your local Tesco's, you go to your local Bells, and you look at the price of bread, look at the price of milk, and you look at the price of butter, it's rising, it's not going down. And if it's going down, you purchase certain items which are not necessarily the best for your health. Now, in a short way, the government, in my opinion, haven't thought this through. They know full well that the higher they raise the pensions, right, the less likely it is that people, unfortunately, will be alive around then to claim it. Therefore, as such, money's not going to be getting paid out, and they know this. People are working a lot longer for a lot less, and there's no guarantee that even after making the 30 to 35 years with a pension payment, that you're going to qualify and get that money. If you miss so much qualifying years, you can pay so much back every year. So you can pay roughly £7 a week voluntary contributions, which equates to about £350 a year. If you miss making those payments, you don't get the full 30 years. At the end of 30 to 35 years, you go along to claim your pension. 1 year before you're entitled to claim your pension, you get that information. But it's too late. Living standards have gone up. It's not going down. It's gone up. The price of living has the cost of living has gone up now. Therefore, your pension will not physically be able to cover that when you go to retire. And in my ward in Gresham, there are people that use that pension just to get by paying rent, electricity, the bills, and basic cost of living. So the answer is, well, I'll be straight frank with you. A lot of people are going to be claiming their pension in the future. That pension is not going to be worth as much as it once was, simply because the way the government has put it forward.
But the other problem with pensions is that the government is expecting employers, and especially small businesses, to foot the bill. So why are employers being forced? Because this is a legal compliance, people. You actually have to do this legally, and there's penalties involved if you don't. Why has the government set the task on employers to automatically enrol?
The Shadow Chancellor at Bowles, our Shadow Chancellor for the Labour Party, has basically said, the same as the leader of the Labour Party, Ed Miliband, has said that he wants to make business regulations, businesses more easier. He wants people to make a profit, but he wants people to pay their fair share in taxes, which we all agree with. Both parties agree on that, the Conservatives and the Labour. However, when you force a business into a corner, which is what it is, and say to them, right, you're making money, and therefore now you've got to look after your employees, we agree with that, but it's the way you go about doing it. Maybe now is not the time to be fully enforcing this through. Maybe now is the time to be focusing on other projects, and not all businesses will be able to see this through, and as a result they might have to shed staff, go from full-time to part-time or part-time to key time. It's a tough one, but we're about to see the results very shortly.
Can we just tell our viewers, especially all our businesses, that when you actually go to the pensions.gov.uk website, it's actually a bit of a minefield, because the language that they've used on their website is actually quite hard to understand. And it's not surprising that some businesses are going to get panicked into paying for financial experts to actually explain what's written on that website in plain English. Never mind for businesses whose English isn't their first language. So what do you have to say about that, Councillor?
Well, I've been on the website myself many times, and I've downloaded information for my own constituents, and what I'll say, it's a jargon buster. It is. I mean, we're on it today. I mean, it's confusing. Just trying to change the language over to say Urdu, Hindi or Punjabi or French or German is just a nightmare. But yeah, it's a very confusing language, and I really would wish that they just make it simple to understand for everyone, because not everyone is out there switched on at that certain time when they log on to the website. Make it simple, make it easy, and make sure that the hotline is available when you ring people to get that information. Because unfortunately, this is people's life savings. And when I was on it past few days and I went on today, I got confused, and I'm a councillor, and if I get confused, then with respect, constituents are getting even more confused.
I'd just like to know what automatic enrolment is all about and what's actually happened last week, 1st of October.
Well, employees have now automatically been enrolled. They should have received some form of documentation either from their employer or from the pension scheme that they've been enrolled on, telling them that they're automatically on a pension. That's not the case. That hasn't necessarily happened for everyone. There are people right now where I work, and people I've come across in my ward, who don't even know this has happened. This will actually be one of the first programs, in my opinion, that are actually telling people, look, you are joined now on an automatic enrolment pension, and as such, you will now have rights. If they do not know this, which I suspect a lot of people don't, get in touch with the job centre, get in touch with the pension advisory service, go and speak to your administrator at work, and speak to human resources at work, or log on to direct.gov.uk/pensions, download or find about the information. This is about your future, so take responsibility and take your hands on it.
But one of the things why people don't know about it is because the government's actually staggered it over a couple of years. So right now on the 1st of October, it's big businesses with over 250 employees or such that are automatically having to run this through. So that's the bigger corporations. Now, this program is focused on Asian businesses in particular. And we're talking about businesses which have fewer than 10 employees. Now, if you're out there and you're thinking, well, I've only got one employee, you know, am I exempt? Well, basically, no business is exempt. It's only self-employed people where it's not a legal obligation to be on a pension scheme. But if you're an employer and if you pay anybody through the PAYE, payee system, then your business, you know, you're eligible, and you can be fined, you can be even sentenced, and there's loads of tough penalties to follow. But because it's been staggered, I believe it's coming in at about 2015, in a couple of years' time. Time flies, people, so we actually need to build this cost into it. And the government's argument for this is that as maternity benefits, as sickness benefits, as other benefits that any companies do have, the pension scheme will also be an additional benefit that employers provide to their employees, so therefore it will attract talent. But the problem is, Councillor, that with Asian businesses, we tend to employ families. We tend to employ people that we know. And there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that we're actually struggling in the first place. We're struggling. Yeah. We need our families, our friends to help us at a time when we need them. So therefore, the long hours, sometimes working for less pay than usual, helping out here and there, it's quite normal because, you know, we're not helping the business. We're actually helping our friend or our family member. So this argument that we're going to attract better talent doesn't really hold much water where Asian businesses are concerned, because they're going to employ their family member regardless, because they'll train them up, they'll get them to do jobs that they can do. So for Asian businesses, you're going to, you know, be hit with this around 2015. And my argument, people, is that between now and then, there's actually a general election. So we need councillors like Sajaad Khan and others championing the cause of businesses. Every business out there in the UK, small businesses, if you're listening to me today, you need to get hold of your local councillors, hold of your MPs, because when they come knocking on your door with a general election coming, you're going to be hit with these charges, and that's a lot of money. That's 3% that you're going to be paying for each employee in 2015, because that is the law. Now, Councillor Sajaad, what I'd like to ask you, I know you're a councillor, but what are your next steps? I mean, we need people like you in Parliament to champion the cause, in particular, of Asian businesses, because although we have, you know, random councillors which, you know, are there for the benefit of businesses and enterprise, and they have their committees for that, there's nobody actually championing the cause of small Asian businesses. So, Councillor, would you like to take this role up in the future? We'd like to see you in that role in Parliament, where we can come knocking on your door and say, right.
I'm flattered, but I'm genuinely going to say at this moment in time, I'm a Labour councillor for the good people of Gresham in Middlesborough. Very proud to represent my town, a town which I've been born in, and a constituency of Gresham where I actually live. In terms of attempting to move up to the next level of Parliament, that's for the more educated people. I'm just a simple soul, just trying to get through the day, and that's it. But I will say now to you, there are many Labour councillors out there, if not all of them, are going out trying to do good by businesses, and I'm fortunate that in my town we have excellent councillors who are out there, Labour councillors who are out there championing the cause of big business and small business.
You don't really think we're going to let you off like that, do you? I mean, we just want to know that we would like to also, as well as we do on this programme, is to fully support you in any efforts that you make towards Parliament, because that's where the real change is. I mean, I know we have councillors up and down, random councillors that do genuine good work, and that goes across all the political parties. But Councillor, we're talking about you here right now, and we'd like to see you in Parliament and taking that step forward.
Well,
don't give us a politician's answer.
All right, let me start with this. In my hometown, just a few days ago, God bless his soul, Sir Stuart Bell, the MP, died, and I want to take this opportunity now to pass on my condolences to his family and to the good people of Middlesbrough. And he was an MP for a long time, and he did a lot of good. And there were a lot of people around him who did a lot of good. But what I will say about myself, at this moment in time, I'm focused on launching some websites which I've been focused on, Teesside, Talk Labour, which I'm going around talking about the issues that matter, unemployment, deprivation, and the antisocial behaviour that goes on in the United Kingdom as a whole. These are things that which I believe in that need resolving. In terms of Parliament, if my time comes, my time will come. That's for the people of the Labour Party to decide. And at this moment in time, that's probably as far as I want to go in regard to my political hopes.
There's a reason why I'm saying this, people, and the reason why I'm saying this is that come 2015, and if, like most people, you're going to start panicking, thinking, you know, which employees are eligible, which are not, and then you want to find out more information. Well, if you go to a financial expert, you're going to have to pay for their help. If you go to some of these websites, they're absolutely hopeless, because you're going to end up more confused than what you actually started off with. You're going to have more questions than what you actually started off with. So it might be an idea to jump on those websites now and start making head and sense of it before you actually have to pay any money in a panic attack, trying to figure out, you know, whether you're breaking the law or not. So therefore, we do need, you know, some supportive councillors in Parliament that will champion our cause, and obviously then all our viewers. I'm here, you know, to champion the cause of my viewers in particular, and they can ring you up, Councillor Sajaad, and say, right, you know, what is there about pensions? So I'm sure a lot of people after this programme finishes would want to know extra information. So can they contact you after this programme to ask about questions, or are you just limited to helping the constituents in your area?
If anyone wants to contact me regarding anything, you can either go on my Facebook, Councillor Sajaad Khan, and you can easily get hold of me, or you can get hold of me through Middlesborough Council, so we'll have the councillor's details. If anyone wants to contact me in relation to a situation with a pension or anything else, you can contact me and I shall do my best to help you. If you're not in my constituency or you're not in my ward, Middlesbrough, I'll still do my best to help you. My role is not two-dimensional. My role is to do what the Labour Party councillors should be doing, is being out there for all people, because at this moment in time, we are one nation, we are one set of people, and we should be looking out for each other. That's what we're all about.
Well, I'm really glad to hear it, because we're going to be needing loads of help. And let's go through our first jargon buster. So, Councillor Sajaad, you know, what's an eligible job holder, what's an entitled worker, and what's a non-eligible job holder? Because I got these words straight off the pensions website, because I was trying to figure out who, as an employer, because when we come to this, because even if you have one employee, you as a small Asian business, so this is aimed at you guys. So we're talking about the takeaways, the restaurants, the halal meat shops, the fabric shops around the corner, all up and down this road, all up and down Manchester and other areas in major cities. You're all actually liable for this. So Councillor Sajaad, would you like to talk about what a entitled job holder is?
In my opinion, someone that's entitled is someone that's working, paying the taxes, paying the national insurance, and works for a company that's registered, officially registered.
I'm going to have to stop you right there like we do every week, people. It's time for a break, and please do join me for this debate and discussion and for the legal implications that are coming your way as a small business, because the law has been enforced. So please join me after the break. Thank you, people, and welcome back. And today's program is about pensions. So a quick recap. Basically, since last week, 1st of October, a new law has been passed in regards to automatic enrollment for employees in bigger companies. It's been staggered over the next couple of years, and even if you're an employer with one employee, you still have to pay employer contributions. Originally, they'll start from 1%, rising up to 3%. And if you have more than one person, then obviously that's going to increase your bill in terms of paying for pensions. In total, the pension contribution is actually 8%. So the employer will pay 3%, which is where we as a Strictly Business programme are here to inform all our viewers and all our businesses and all our young entrepreneurs as to what's going on. The government will be contributing 1%, and the actual employee will be contributing 4%. Now, there are companies out there which contribute, 6% and more, and it's part of an employee benefits package like maternity leave, sick pay, and all the rest of it. But for Asian businesses, it's not something that really actually happens, not on a micro level where you employ less than 10 people. You're basically in this climate struggling to even pay the employees that you've got, never mind their pension contributions, which now you're going to have to pay because it's enforced by law. And should you think, oh, let's get out of this, and think there's a loophole that you can get out of this, well, there isn't, because if you try it and you get caught, there's anything up to £10,000 fine for some of the bigger employers, and then there's a custodial sentence. So you could actually go to prison over it. and that's not worth anything, people, because we don't want to be going down that road. Basically, just in the break, just before the break, we were talking about the jargon that's filled up on the websites about pensions, which is why it's so confusing, and which is why in a panic attack people then resort to financial experts to then come and explain that to them. And it's going to be extremely hard for those people who don't have access to a computer, who are not online, whose English is not second language, but make up a vast proportion of small businesses in this country. So talking about some of the jargon, I was talking to Councillor Sajaad, who is on the Teeside Pension Fund and Investment Panel, all the way from Middlesborough, to discuss what his fund does. And one of the arguments on my side is that the pension, state pension, the age is rising so high that we're all going to end up dead. So nobody's actually going to pick up this pension. So Councillor Sajaad, out of curiosity, just suppose you do end up dead and, you know, before you get to the state pension, what happens to that fund? What happens to your pension?
Well, there are certain measures in place where that money or the lump sum will be then transferred to your next of kin, which could be your spouse or could be your children. So there are measures in place which you would have to set up to make sure that is done. So when you are claiming for your pension, make sure you check and fill every document in, because it's your money and you're entitled to it, or someone else is entitled to it from your family.
So coming back to this question of pensions, because that's what we're talking about here today, one of the things about Asian businesses is that they're just simply not geared up to pay into any kind of pension fund. So what are the first things, if they're watching this program, and come like 2015, when this will be part of the law, so you've got 2-3 years to think about this, so nobody needs to panic right this second, but what you do need to do right now is to start doing your reading, start looking up so you avoid all those administration costs, because that's what we want to do. We're here to save you money. Okay, so save yourself a lot of hassle by reading as much as you can and getting some extra information on this. So Councillor Sajaad, I mean, we were talking about eligible, non-eligible, entitled workers, and basically each worker has a category, and there's 3 categories of people. With entitled workers, the only difference is that the employer does not contribute, and that's if you are earning less than £107 a week and you're aged between 16 and 22, and also from the state pension age, which at the moment stands at 65, because it could clearly change tomorrow. Today's age of 65 up to 75, those people are known as non-eligibles. But should they want to contribute voluntarily to this automatic enrolment, then as an employer, you have to pay for it. Then we've got the entitled workers who are entitled, but they're not due for an automatic enrolment, and they're the people who earn less than £107 a week. Again, should they want to enrol onto this pension scheme as an employer, that's the only difference. You don't actually pay for their contributions. And other than that, and self-employed people, which is all our taxi drivers out there, you're actually at this moment in time responsible for your own pension arrangements. But talking about pensions and arrangements and the state pension, which we all know definitely isn't enough to live off, you actually need multiple income streams. That's right. And one of the things that we were actually discussing during this break is that us Asian people, we always have, a couple of properties. It's just something that we do in our spare time, isn't it? Is start, acquiring properties for our families and all the rest of it, and as an investment fund. But it's not much of an investment right now because people are struggling to get them out on rent. So what other options do they have in terms of all these properties that our Asian people are inquiring? Because I understand you're involved with something else.
Well, what I can say, Shaghofta ji, I don't actually have any extra properties. What I get paid is what I have. And any money I've got put aside is what I'm going to be living on in the future as my pensions. And I, like many, I've realised that the state pension will not be enough for me to support my family and support those around me in the future when I grow old. By the way, I am younger than I look, just so I don't want to give the impression that I'm extremely old, because I'm not, because some people may think that. In relation to additional income, you could have your savings, you could have an additional part-time job, or rent from a property, stocks and shares. You could invest into a different pension fund, borrow a friend and never return the money back. Or in some cases, I, like other people, have taken on a secondary role to support my income. I actually work for a company called Cllr Enterprise Limited in Middlesborough. The chief executive is a gentleman called Cllr Sajaad Khan. As non-executive director, I am responsible for a new and innovative way of looking after the elderly. What we do, it's similar to the care homes at NHS, but what we do, we provide the opportunity for the public or for people who have those in need for special assistance, like elderly, and we will be able to place them into a home where we can do adaptive living, independent living. And what that means is that we'll have the beds and the mattresses they use in the hospitals, very similar features in the hospital that they have, but we'll have it in a home instead. And they will be living there, and they will be supported by someone 24 hours if they need it. And it's a new way that we've come out with, and it's called Cleveland Care Enterprise Limited, and it's in Middlesborough, and it's headed by a gentleman called Cllr Khan, and it's something that we're working on at the moment.
But my understanding is, from the material that I read about Cleveland Care, that just suppose we have Asian landlords who are watching this program today, and like many Asian landlords, you're actually struggling to put the property on rent because, you know, sometimes you have tenants, sometimes they don't pay, sometimes the property is empty, and all the rest of it. And I understand that Cleveland Care does have a referral scheme where you take these properties from landlords and you give them a fixed amount each month. Is that correct?
That's right. What we do, if there's anyone out there who has properties and is looking at to rent them for at least 10 to 12 years on a lease, so therefore you want rid of the headache of having your property managed by some kind of agent lettings company, we can come in and we can take over, and what we can do for a certain percentage, because obviously we are a business, we can make sure that property's brought up to standard, if it isn't already, brought up to standard to reflect the needs and concerns of a carer, and we can place someone in that property and make sure that that property and that carer is looked after with dignity, pride and respect. And if you have properties as landlords and you don't want the hassle, then the best thing to do is get in touch with my good self, and we can take it from there. And that's what people have actually been doing. They've been approaching us because we know we've got a 100% record of honesty and transparency. What you see is what you get. Don't hide anything from us.
So the thing is that if there's any landlords, well, any landlords that are watching this program today, and we're here, like I said, as a business program, so does that mean that they, whether that property is empty or not, they still get continue to pay a rental income from yourselves?
It depends on the contract, the size of the contract, and how long we've got the property for. But likelihoods, we would make sure that property is staffed and housed by someone at all times. So it's unlikely that it'll be kept empty. And in relation to payments being missed or us not paying you because there's no one in that property, again, it comes down to the contract. But I would say that it's unlikely that property would ever be empty for the 52 weeks of the year. I personally think we'd have someone at all times, because there is such demand right now and such concerns with the NHS and care homes, and some of the scandals with care homes recently, that a lot of people are looking to an independent living, are looking for just a property where they can place someone, but the requirements and the measurements of that of the NHS and that of the medical standards, except we're doing it for you. And all our staff are qualified, all our staff are registered, and all our staff are there 24 hours a day. Cleveland Care Enterprise Limited will be doing that, can do that, and is doing that.
That is really great news. At least we got some good news here, because it was just looking too doom and bleak at the moment. So, Councillor, you know, because you're a councillor, we're going to put this question to you. What's better, private or public pensions? Which ones would you recommend?
Well, originally I would have said private pension, but the government, as usual, not thinking, they've recently borrowed so much money. Well, let me cut it short. What they've done, they've printed money from thin air, and they call this quantitative easing. And what they've done, they've put all this money into the economy. When you print money, inflation goes up. Okay, that is money that shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's gone in. Therefore, private pensions, private stocks are not worth as much as they once were. Therefore, if you have a private pension, you need to go back to that organisation, to that bank, or to that building society and ask them, what are the effects of this quantitative easing? What are the effects of the government pumping money into the economy onto my pension 15 to 30 years from now? Because that's when likely when you go to claim your pension. At this moment in time, invest in your state pension. If you're missing any payments, make sure you make the payments. Go through your work pension also. If there's a scheme there available, go to speak to someone at work and ask them about it. Look at the small print, look at the blueprint, look at everything before you sign. And if you can get on something like the Teesside Pension Fund Investment Panel, they are, in my opinion, the most honest, transparent staff you'll ever come across. The geeks They know all the jargon, but I'll tell you one thing about them, they will not let you down, and that is something that I can say with a lot of pride.
That's great, because I believe they're like number 7 in the list of things, because there's a list actually, by the way, people, of pension funds and how they compare to others. So if you just wanted to benchmark them all, you can actually go to a few websites and get that kind of information. So, Councillor, talking about pensions yet again, how do you see the future?
At this moment in time, I would have to say, if you don't invest in your own future, the government won't be doing it for you. You need to stay on top of things. You need to make sure you get your skills done. You need to make sure that you're looking around and make sure you look after yourself. At this moment in time, and it's not a positive thing to be saying on television right now, the government is not doing the job for you. You must do the job right now. There's a recession right now. The government denies the recession. It's a double dip recession caused in Downing Street. We didn't cause this. The government have caused this. Therefore, the victims of this are the people. And you know, Shaghofta ji, who the beneficiaries of this are? The millionaires in the cabinet are making decisions that are affecting the poor on the streets. It affects people like me, it affects people like my constituents, and it affects the town of Middlesborough, which is suffering because of government cuts. So right now, the future could be better, but what I will say is this, in 2015 you should have a general election. Ed Miliband, Ed Balls are showing you the way. Trust them with your vote. Make sure you vote for Labour, because you look at our record, yes, we might have had some issues towards the last few months, maybe the last year of our government, but it was a lot better then than it has ever been now.
Okay, fab. That's enough about the Labour Party and their good work. Right, we know exactly. Okay, we're not going to turn this into a politics programme, people, so sorry about that. But what I'd like to know, Councillor, is, you know, Asian businesses that are watching this programme right now, what should they be doing? Because come 2015, which isn't really that far away, so we've directed them to some websites. But if there are any out there that do involve more than 250 people, where should they go for help in the first instance? Or for those that just randomly want to read up about this and be prepared for this, what should they be doing?
If you're an Asian business or a minority business and you know you're going to be in the same location or employing roughly the same amount of staff that you've got now in the future, go to see your accountant, log onto the website, the Pensionary Advisory Service, and ring the helpline number. It's 08045, so ring the number, it's a free number you can ring it from. It's open from 9 AM to 5 PM. Ring them, tell them your situation. They're there to provide you advice. They're not there to scrutinise you and ask you for your tax returns. Find out what you can be doing for your employees. Speak to your employees, hold a team meeting, ask them if any of them have looked into their pension arrangement. If not, see what you can do. Because you're getting automatically enrolled anyway, you should in theory be receiving documentation. If not, contact your Member of Parliament, contact your local councillor and get the information from them. Don't leave things to the last moment and get a letter saying you haven't done anything and there's a fine. So do something, show the initiative, show the leadership.
I know you've talked about, you know, there should be some documents coming your way. Who's actually managing things? Who's going to be sending you these documents? Where are these documents meant to come from?
In theory, it will be the Department of Works and Pensions. Assuming they can get around to doing it, but it should be them that are doing it for you.
Are they actually going to be like some of the other departments in the government that actually make more chaos and fuss than anything else? Is that what we're going to end up with?
Don't say that too loud. People might be listening if you say that. You don't want to be saying that too loud. This government is doing a fantastic job according to them. You don't want to be saying that too loud. If they find out you're saying that, what they're going to say?
Well, you're here to defend them, isn't it?
No, I'm not here to defend any Conservatives or Liberals. What I would say, again, take initiative and do it yourself. And telephone the Pensionary Advisory Service and get some information from them. They're there for you to do the job for you.
So what is your advice to potential young people or those looking to start up in business at this moment in time? I sat at home because I do get a lot of viewers who come onto my Facebook and they say, we really like watching your programme, because it actually gives us ideas, views, and we get a general feel of what's going on in the business world. So anybody who's looking to start up, well, coming in the next couple of years, what should they be thinking about? What is your message to them?
Did you know today youth unemployment's gone higher? Officially today it's gone higher even more. It's ridiculous now. And the North East MPs have all come together saying that we need to be doing something about this, trying to bring it down and manage it. And I would say to anyone that wants to invest in a business, start up in a business, go and do it. Look at Sir Alan Sugar, look at Duncan Bannatyne, look at these people. They started, look at Richard Branson, they started by showing some initiative at a young age. They did it, they showed it, they had the character and they did it. Get the advice before you start a business up. Look at your legal rights, look what you have to pay, and look at your pension rights also. Schools and colleges should be telling people and educating people about pensions and about their bank accounts and about what they need to do for the future. find the information, go to speak to your elders, find some mentors and ask them what you need to do about your future, because you plan now, it's going to help you later on in life. If you start halfway through life and start thinking, how am I going to look for my pension, how am I going to invest in my future, could be too late. The last thing you want to be doing is leaving it late. And the beauty of the internet and the beauty of organisations are the information is there available for free.
Right, for anybody that thinks that pensions are just for businesses, well, think again, because even if you're a voluntary charity, social enterprise, and you simply you're an employer, even of one person, any of those capacities, this law still applies to you. So don't just, at home think, okay, I'm only part of a charity, I'm only a trustee. This law will still apply to you if you employ anybody within that charity, voluntary and social enterprise. Now, we've got to wrap up this program. It's been really fun talking to you guys. If you have any questions, obviously, which I assume that everybody will be doing and having a lot of think about what we've talked about today, please either come on to me, onto my Facebook, or you can also contact Councillor Sajaad Khan. So on a final note, Councillor, what would you like to say to all our viewers, all our businesses, and to all our viewership that's watching today all over the world?
Well, I'd like to give you the opportunity in DM Digital for thanking you for letting me come on this show today. And what I will say in relation to pensions and your own future, if you don't look after your future, no one else is going to be doing it for you in this day and age. So therefore, you should be doing it yourself. And if I may say on a very light note, there's a young lady on this TV right now who I love and adore, my niece, Mariam Khan, who's watching. And I just want you to say, Beta, that I hope you've been watching and paying attention, because this is also about your future too. You may be 14-year-olds now, but when you grow up in the future, you're going to have to look after yourself and look after your own financial arrangements. So listen to your uncle for a change.
Thank you so much, Councillor. And thank you everybody for watching. And do join me this time next week, where I'll be bringing some more business news in your direction. Thank you.